I was 24 years old the night I decided I'd rather die than go back inside that house. My hands were shaking. Not from the cold wind that October night in Chicago, but from something deeper. Something that had been building inside me for 6 years. 6 years of living with my uncle and his wife after my parents died in that car crash. 6 years of sleeping in the basement. 6 years of hearing her voice screaming at me before the sun even came up. You're useless. You eat our food, you breathe our air, and what do you give us? Nothing. That morning, she'd thrown a plate at my head because I forgot to buy the expensive coffee she liked. The ceramic shattered against the wall, inches from my face. My uncle just sat there reading his newspaper. Like always. Like he never saw anything. But that night was different. I'd broken her favorite vase while cleaning. It was an accident. My hands were raw from scrubbing floors all day, and it just slipped. She didn't yell this time. She walked up to me very slowly, very quietly, and she smiled. Get out, she whispered. Get out of my house and never come back. But it's almost midnight, Out. My uncle looked up from his phone for exactly 3 seconds. Then he looked back down. I grabbed my old backpack. I had $47 in my wallet. No phone plan, just the old smartphone with no service that I used for Wi-Fi. The clothes on my back. That was it. That was my whole life. I walked out into that October night, and I heard the door lock behind me. Click. The sound of everything I'd ever known disappearing as I walked for hours through downtown Chicago. The streets got darker. Emptier. The good neighborhoods turned into places where the streetlights were broken and windows had bars on them. My feet hurt. My stomach was empty. I'd been so busy cleaning all day I forgot to eat again. I found myself on a street I'd never seen before. Old brick buildings. Most of them abandoned. But at the corner, there was one place still lit up. A flower shop. Not fancy. Not the kind you see in nice parts of town. This one had old wooden signs and flowers in buckets outside. Even this late. Roses. Lilies. Some I didn't even know the names of. The sign above the door said Moretti's Flowers. The red neon hummed in the darkness. I didn't know why, but I felt drawn to it. Maybe because flowers were the only beautiful things I'd seen all day. Maybe because I was so tired I couldn't think straight anymore. I sat down on the sidewalk right next to those flower buckets. I pulled my knees up to my chest and just sat there, under the glow of that red sign, surrounded by roses. The wind picked up. It was getting colder. I didn't have a jacket, just a thin sweater with holes in it. I closed my eyes and thought about my mom. She used to grow flowers in our backyard before she died. She'd let me help water them every morning. Flowers are tough, she used to say. They look delicate, but they survive things you wouldn't believe. Just like you, baby. Just like you. I started crying. Not loud. Just quiet tears rolling down my face while the city moved around me like I wasn't even there. I didn't know someone was watching me. Above the flower shop were apartments. Old ones. The kind with fire escapes and brick walls. In one of those windows, 5 floors up, a man stood in the darkness. He was 36 years old, though I wouldn't learn that until much later. His name was Marco Moretti, but people in this neighborhood just called him the Wolf. Not because he was violent. No, Marco was worse than violent. He was quiet. He was the kind of man who could destroy your entire life with a phone call. The kind of man who owned half the city without anyone knowing his name. The kind of man who made problems disappear. He'd been standing at that window for 20 minutes, watching me cry under his flower shop sign. The flower shop wasn't just a flower shop. It was a front. Everyone in the neighborhood knew that, but no one talked about it. The real business happened in the back rooms. Money moving. Deals being made. Protection being sold. But his grandmother had started that flower shop 60 years ago before she died. And Marco kept it running exactly as she'd wanted. Real flowers. Real business hours. A real shopkeeper who knew nothing about what happened after dark. Marco lit a cigarette and watched me through the window. His second-in-command, a man named Tony, walked into the room behind him. Boss, the shipment from... Who is that? Marco interrupted, not turning around. Tony looked out the window. Some homeless girl. Want me to move her?
No.
Boss, she's right in front of our. I said no. Marco's voice was ice. Leave her. Tony knew better than to argue. He left the room quietly. Marco kept watching. Something about the way I sat there, so small under those flowers, made something twist in his chest. Something he hadn't felt in years. Not pity. Marco didn't do pity. It was recognition. He'd sat exactly like that when he was 9 years old, the night his father was murdered. Alone.
Broken.
Surrounded by a world that didn't care if he lived or died. He took one last drag of his cigarette, crushed it in the ashtray, and made a decision. I must have fallen asleep, because I woke up to someone standing over me. My heart exploded in my chest. I scrambled backward, my back hitting the brick wall. It was a man.
Tall.
Dark hair. Wearing an expensive black coat that probably cost more than I'd made in my entire life. His eyes were gray.
Cold.
But not mean. Just empty, like he'd seen too much to feel anything anymore. You can't sleep here, he said. His voice was deep.
Calm.
I'm sorry, I'll go. I tried to stand, but my legs were numb from sitting so long. I didn't say leave. I said you can't sleep here. He looked at me for a long moment. It's not safe. Nowhere's safe. I heard myself say.
I don't know why I said it.
Maybe I was too tired to be scared. Something flickered in his eyes. Just for a second. You're right, he said quietly. Then, you have family?
I almost laughed. No.
Friends?
No. Job? No.
He nodded slowly, like I'd just confirmed something he already knew. The flower shop needs someone, he said. Opening shift. 6 a.m. You arrange flowers, help customers, keep the place clean. Cash under the table, $700 a week. There's a room in the back you can stay in. I stared at him. Why? Because I need someone and you need somewhere to be. You don't even know me. I know enough. He pulled out a key from his pocket. Old brass. Back door. Room's small, but it's warm. Be here at 6 tomorrow morning. If you're not, I'll assume you don't want it. He set the key on the ground between us and started to walk away. Wait. My voice cracked. What's your name?
He stopped.
Didn't turn around. Marco, he said. Don't make me regret this. Then he was gone, disappearing into the shadows like he'd never been there at all. I looked at the key on the ground. This could be a trap. This could be dangerous. Every common sense thought told me to run. But I picked up that key. Because sometimes, when you have nothing left to lose, even danger feels like hope. The room was small.
Just like he said.
But it was warm. And it was mine. There was a bed. A real bed with clean sheets. A tiny bathroom with a shower that actually had hot water. A window that looked out at the alley, where the sunrise was just starting to paint the brick walls gold. I cried in that shower. I cried so hard I had to sit down on the floor and let the hot water run over me until it turned cold. At 6 a.m, someone knocked on my door. I opened it to find an older woman, maybe 60, with kind eyes and flour on her apron. I'm Rosa, she said with a thick Italian accent. I run the shop during the day. Marco said you're helping now. Yes, ma'am. She looked me up and down. Not judging. Just seeing. You eat breakfast? I'm okay. That wasn't a question. She grabbed my hand and pulled me into the shop's back room where there was a small kitchen. She sat me down and put a plate in front of me.
Eggs. Toast.
Fresh tomatoes.
Coffee. Eat.
Then, I teach you flowers. I ate. I couldn't remember the last time someone cooked for me. The eggs were perfect. The coffee was strong. The tomatoes tasted like summer even though it was October. Rosa watched me eat with satisfaction. Then she took me out to the shop floor. Flowers are like people, she said, her hands moving gently over the roses. They all need different things. Some need lots of water. Some need almost none. Some need sun. Some hide from it. Your job is to learn what each one needs. To listen. Listen to flowers? She smiled. You think flowers don't talk? You wait. You'll hear them. She was right. Over the next week, I learned every flower in that shop. Their names, their needs, which ones went together, which ones fought. I learned how to cut stems at an angle, how to keep water fresh, how to make a bouquet that told a story. And I learned about the neighborhood. People came into the shop. Old women buying flowers for their husbands' graves. Young men buying roses for dates. Families buying arrangements for weddings. But I noticed something else too. Some people came in and didn't buy flowers at all. They'd walk past Rosa and me like we were invisible. They'd go to the back room. They'd stay for 5 minutes. Then they'd leave. Rosa never explained it, and I never asked. But I saw Marco sometimes. Late at night through my window. He'd stand in the alley, talking to men in expensive suits. His voice was always quiet, controlled. But the men listening looked terrified. I should have been scared. But I wasn't. Because Marco never looked at me the way other men did. He didn't look at me like I was pretty or weak or something to take. When his gray eyes met mine across the shop, he looked at me like I was a puzzle he was trying to solve. 3 weeks passed. I worked every day from 6 in the morning until closing. Rosa taught me everything she knew. I got better. Faster. I started to understand what she meant about flowers talking. The bruises from my old life faded. I started eating regular meals. I even gained a little weight. Rosa said I looked less like a ghost. But I never saw Marco up close again. Just glimpses. Through windows. In the alley. Always at a distance. Always watching but never coming near. Until one night in November. I was closing up the shop. Rosa had left early for her grandson's birthday dinner. It was just me, sweeping the floor, humming to myself. The front door opened. Marco walked in. He was wearing a dark suit. No tie. His hair was slightly wet, like he'd just come from somewhere. There was a cut on his knuckles, fresh, still red. "You're doing good work," he said. It was the first time he'd spoken to me since that first night. "Thank you." My voice sounded small in the empty shop. He walked slowly through the flowers, his hands in his pockets. "Rosa says you have a gift for this. She's just being nice." "Rosa doesn't do nice. She does honest." He stopped in front of the roses. White ones. My grandmother used to say, you could tell a person's heart by which flowers they chose. What do white roses mean? New beginnings. He looked at me then. Really looked at me. "Do you believe in those?" "I don't know," I admitted. "Do you?" I used to think no. That people were what they were, and nothing changed that. He picked up one of the white roses, testing the stem with his thumb. But lately, I'm not so sure. The air between us felt heavy. Electric. "Why did you help me?" I asked. The question I'd been holding for 3 weeks. That night. "You didn't know me." I could have been anyone. Marco was quiet for a long time. Then, my father was murdered when I was 9. Shot in the street like a dog. My mother died 6 months later. Broken heart, the doctors said. I had no one. I lived on the streets for 2 years before my grandmother found me. He set the rose down carefully. I know what it looks like when someone's got nothing left. I know that look in the eyes. That choice between giving up or surviving one more day. My throat was tight. "So, you helped me because you felt sorry for me?" "No." His gray eyes locked onto mine. "I helped you because you picked survive. You were sitting under my flowers at midnight with nowhere to go and $47 in your pocket, and you still had that look. That fighter look. I respect that. How did you know I had $47? The corner of his mouth almost smiled. "I know everything that happens on my street." He moved toward the door. Then he stopped. "You ever need anything, you tell Rosa. She'll make sure you're taken care of." "Why are you being so kind to me?" The question came out broken. Marco turned back one last time. "Because someone should have been kind to you a long time ago," he said simply. "And because this world takes enough from people. Maybe it's time to give something back." Then he was gone. I stood there in that flower shop, surrounded by roses and lilies and that red neon glow, and I cried. But this time they weren't sad tears. Winter came to Chicago. The flower shop got busy with holiday orders. Christmas wreaths. Poinsettias. Arrangements for office parties and family dinners. I worked 12-hour days and loved every minute. Rosa started teaching me the business side. How to order from suppliers. How to price arrangements. How to talk to difficult customers. She treated me like a granddaughter. You got a good brain, she'd say.
Quick.
Careful. You could run this place someday. I laughed at that. I'm just a girl who got lucky. Luck. Rosa snorted. You think Marco gives luck to just anyone? That man hasn't trusted nobody in 15 years. You special. He sees it even if you don't. I'd see Marco sometimes. Usually late at night. Once, I saw him in the alley talking to a man who was crying, begging. Marco's face was stone. He said something quiet, and the man went pale and ran away. The next day, that man's restaurant downtown burned down. Insurance fire, the news said. But I knew better. I should have been scared of Marco. But I wasn't. Because every time I saw him, even from far away, his eyes would find mine for just a second. And in that second, there was something soft. Something almost human hiding under all that ice. Then one night in January, everything changed. I was in my room, reading, when I heard shouting from the alley. I looked out my window and my heart stopped. 3 men had Marco surrounded. They had guns. Big ones. You think you can move in on Castellano territory? One of them screamed. You think you're untouchable? Marco didn't move. Didn't flinch. His hands were in his pockets, like he was discussing the weather. Tell Castellano if he has a problem with me, he can come talk to me himself instead of sending children. We ain't kids. The man raised his gun to Marco's head. Last chance, Moretti. Pull back from the docks, or we end this right now. I couldn't breathe. I had to do something. Call someone. But who? The police? Marco probably owned half of them. Marco smiled. Actually smiled. You boys know where you're standing right now. His voice was casual. You're standing in my alley, behind my business, with cameras recording every word you say. And you're threatening me. The men looked around. Nervous now. So here's what's going to happen, Marco continued, still not moving. You're going to put those guns away. You're going to walk back to Castellano and tell him Marco Moretti said to stay in his lane. And if you ever point a gun at me again, I won't just kill you. I'll kill everyone you ever loved. Your mothers, your sisters, your kids, everyone. And I'll make sure you watch before I let you die. The silence that followed was terrifying. The men looked at each other. Then slowly, they lowered their guns and backed away. This ain't over, Moretti. It is if you're smart, Marco called after them. But I'm guessing you're not. They disappeared into the night. Marco stood there alone in the alley for a long moment. Then his eyes lifted to my window. He knew I'd been watching. We stared at each other across that dark space. Neither of us moving. Then he turned and walked away. I sat on my bed, shaking. Not because I was scared of Marco, but because I'd just realized something terrible. I was falling in love with him, that I tried to avoid Marco after that night. When I saw him in the alley, I'd duck away from the window. When he came into the shop, I'd suddenly need to check something in the back room. But Rosa noticed. Why are you hiding from Marco? She asked one morning while we arranged carnations. I'm not hiding. She gave me that Italian grandmother look that sees through everything. You afraid of him?
No. Good.
Because he's afraid of you. I looked up. What? Rosa's eyes were twinkling. That man hasn't looked at a woman the way he looks at you in 10 years. Not since. She stopped herself. Not since what? Rosa shook her head. Not my story to tell. But you should know Marco's heart. It's been locked up a long time. Frozen. And you. She touched my cheek gently. You're the first warm thing to get near it in years. That scares him. Rosa, I'm nobody. He's Marco Moretti. And? You think because he's powerful he don't feel things? You think because he's dangerous he don't get lonely? She went back to her carnations. The most dangerous men are the ones who never let themselves be soft. One day all that hardness cracks. And when it does... She smiled. Boom. That night, Marco knocked on my door. I almost didn't answer, but something made me open it. He stood there in the hallway, and for the first time since I'd met him, he looked uncertain, vulnerable. "Can I come in?" he asked quietly. I stepped aside. Marco walked into my small room and looked around. At the books I'd bought from the used bookstore. At the single plant I was growing on the windowsill. At the life I was building. "I need to tell you something," he said, his back to me. "And after I tell you, you might want to leave. If you do, I'll give you money. Enough to start somewhere new. Somewhere better than this." "I don't want to leave. You haven't heard what I have to say yet." He turned around. His gray eyes were storm clouds. 10 years ago, I was engaged. Her name was Sophia. She was beautiful.
Kind.
Everything I wasn't. She saw the good in me when there wasn't any good to see. My chest tightened. One night, my enemies found out about her. They took her. His jaw clenched. They killed her.
To hurt me.
To teach me a lesson about love being weakness. Marco. I swore I'd never let anyone close again. I built walls so high nothing could get through. I became the man you saw in that alley.
Cold.
Empty. Dangerous. He took a step closer. And then you showed up, sitting under my flowers, looking like you were one breath away from giving up. And something in me broke. My heart was pounding. Every day I watch you, I tell myself to stay away, that getting close to you will get you killed, that I'm poison. His voice dropped to almost a whisper. But I can't stay away. Every time I try, I end up right back here, standing outside your door, like some lovesick teenager. Marco. You should be afraid of me, he said. You should run as far away from me as possible, because everyone I've ever loved has died. And I can't watch that happen again. I can't watch it happen to you. He started toward the door. I grabbed his hand. He froze. I'm not afraid of you, I said. My voice was shaking, but steady. I'm afraid of going back to who I was before I met you. I'm afraid of living in a world where no one sees me, where no one cares if I exist. I held his hand tighter. You saved my life, Marco.
Not just that night.
Every day since. You made me feel like I matter. Like I'm worth something. You are worth something, he said fiercely. You're worth everything. Then don't push me away. I looked up at him. I know what you are. I know what you do. And I'm choosing to stay anyway. I'm choosing you. Marco stared at me like I'd just spoken a language he'd forgotten existed. Then slowly, carefully, like he was handling something precious that might break, he lifted his hand and touched my face. His fingers were rough, scarred, but his touch was so gentle it made my eyes water. If you stay, he whispered, there's no going back. My world, it's dark, dangerous. People will come after you to get to me. Let them come. You don't know what you're saying. Yes, I do. I put my hand over his. For 24 years, I was invisible. I was nothing. You made me something. You made me seen. I'm not giving that up. I'm not giving you up. Something in Marco's eyes shattered. The ice melted. And underneath was something raw and real and terrifying. I can't promise you safety, he said. I don't want safety. I want real. I want you. He kissed me then. Soft at first.
Testing.
Like he was afraid I might disappear if he held on too tight. But I kissed him back harder, pulling him closer, and something in both of us broke open. When we finally pulled apart, we were both breathing hard. This is crazy, he said against my forehead. I know. We're going to regret this. I know. I'm in love with you, he breathed. I've been in love with you since the moment I saw you under those flowers. And it terrifies me. I smiled through my tears. Good. Because I'm in love with you too. And I'm not going anywhere. Marco pulled me against his chest and held me like I was the only thing keeping him anchored to this world. And maybe I was. For 3 months, we lived in a perfect bubble. Marco taught me about his world. Not the violence. Not the danger. But the reasons. The protection his family provided to the neighborhood. The people he kept safe. The businesses he helped survive when banks turned them away. I'm not a good man, he told me one night as we sat on the roof of his building, looking out over Chicago. But I try to be fair. I try to protect the people who can't protect themselves. That sounds pretty good to me, I said. He kissed my temple. You see the best in everything. Even me. I met his inner circle. Tony, who still didn't trust me, but was warming up. Angela, his accountant, who was brilliant and terrifying. Old man Carmine, who'd been friends with Marco's father and treated me like I was already part of the family. Rosa approved. I told you, she'd say with satisfaction. I told you, you were special. I moved out of the room above the flower shop and into Marco's apartment. It was beautiful, modern,
Clean.
but he let me fill it with plants and books and all the soft things he'd never allowed himself before. We were happy. Really, truly happy. I should have known it wouldn't last. One night in April, I was closing the flower shop alone. Rosa had gone home early. Marco was at a meeting across town. It was just me and the roses. The bell above the door chimed. 3 men walked in. I recognized one of them from that night in the alley. Castellano's men. My blood went cold. We're closed, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. We ain't here for flowers, the leader said. He was young, maybe 25, with mean eyes and a scar across his jaw. We're here for you. I backed up slowly. Marco will. Marco ain't here. And by the time he finds out about this, you'll be long gone. He smiled. Castellano sends his regards. I grabbed the scissors from the counter. Stay away from me. They laughed. Look at her. Moretti's little flower girl thinks she can fight.
They moved toward me.
I threw a vase. It hit one of them in the face. He screamed. I ran for the back room, but they were faster. Hands grabbed me, pulled me back. The scissors fell from my hand. Get her in the van.
Now.
I screamed. I kicked. I bit. But there were 3 of them, and one of me. They dragged me toward the back door. And then the lights went out. Not just in the shop. In the whole street. Everything went black. I heard gunshots. Shouting. The men holding me let go. Someone grabbed my hand in the darkness. It's me, Marco's voice. Low. Deadly calm. Run. He pulled me through the shop, through the back room, into the alley. A car was waiting. Tony was driving. Get in. Marco shoved me into the back seat and climbed in after me. Tony hit the gas. We flew through the streets of Chicago at 90 miles per hour. I was shaking so hard I couldn't breathe. Marco pulled me against him. You're okay. You're safe. I've got you. They were going to take me. They were going to.
I know. I know.
But they didn't. And they never will. His voice was pure ice. Pure rage. I'm going to kill every single one of them. Marco. They touched you. They put their hands on you. They're dead. All of them. Castellano included. I looked up at him. His face was a mask of fury. This wasn't the Marco who kissed me gently, who held me while I slept. This was the wolf. The man who made problems disappear. What's going to happen? I whispered. War. Tony said from the front seat. This means war. Marco didn't deny it. Marco took me to a safe house outside the city. It was beautiful. Modern. Hidden in the woods where no one could find us. But it felt like a cage. You need to stay here, Marco said. He was packing a bag. Guns. Ammunition. Things I didn't want to see. Tony will be outside. Angela will check on you. Don't leave. Don't answer the door for anyone but them. How long? As long as it takes. To do what? He stopped packing and looked at me. To end this. By killing people. By protecting you. He came over and took my face in his hands. They came after you to hurt me. That means every other enemy I have will try the same thing. The only way to keep you safe is to make them too afraid to try. This is because of me, I said, tears streaming down my face. People are going to die because of me. No. People are going to die because they made the mistake of thinking they could touch what's mine. His eyes were fierce. You didn't ask for this. You didn't choose this life. But I'm choosing to protect you, no matter what it costs. What if it costs you? Then it costs me. Marco, please. I can't lose you. His voice broke. I can't. I've lost everyone I've ever loved. My parents. Sophia. I can't lose you too. I won't survive it. I held him as tight as I could. Then come back to me. Whatever you have to do, just come back to me. He kissed me. Desperate. Like it might be the last time. Then he was gone. I spent 3 days in that safe house alone. 3 days of staring at my phone. Watching the news. Seeing reports of fires and shootings and arrests across Chicago. The Castellano family was being dismantled piece by piece. Tony came by twice. He looked tired.
Grim.
Is Marco okay?
I asked.
Boss is doing what he does best, Tony said.
Don't worry about him.
Worry about yourself. But I couldn't stop worrying. On the 4th day, Angela showed up. Get your things, she said. We're moving you.
Why?
What happened? Castellano's dead. Marco got to him last night. But before he died, he sent word to the syndicate. Called for a blood vote. I didn't know what that meant, but from Angela's face, it was bad. What's a blood vote? It's when all the families vote on whether someone's crossed the line. If they vote yes, that person is marked for death. No exceptions. No mercy. She grabbed my arm. Marco's trial is tomorrow night. If the families vote against him, every hitman in America will come after him. My world tilted. Can he fight it? He's going to try. But Angela's eyes were sad. He killed 13 men in 4 days. He burned down Castellano's businesses. He broke the rules. The families don't like that. They don't like anyone getting too powerful, too violent, too unpredictable. So they'll kill him. Maybe. She pulled me toward the door. Come on. He wants to see you before the vote. She drove me to an old church in the city. Abandoned. Windows broken. But in the basement, there was a room lit by candles. Marco was there. He looked different. Tired. Older. Like he'd aged years in 4 days. But when he saw me, something in his face softened. Leave us, he said to Angela. She left. We stood there in that candlelit room, 2 people who'd found each other in the darkness. They're going to vote against you, aren't they? I said. Probably. What happens then? Then I run. Or I fight. Or I die. He said it so simply, like it was just another fact of life. But you'll be safe. I've made arrangements. New identity. Money. Angela will take you somewhere they'll never find you. You'll have a good life. Without you. Without me. I walked over to him. Took his scarred hands in mine. What if there was another option? I asked. There isn't. What if we ran? Together. Left all of this behind. Changed our names. Started over somewhere new. Just you and me and... I can't.
His voice was heavy.
I have responsibilities. People depending on me. I can't just abandon them. Even if it means dying? Even then. He pulled me close. This is my world. These are my people. I can't turn my back on them just because things got hard. You're choosing them over me.
No.
He tilted my face up. I'm choosing to do the right thing, even though it's killing me. Because you made me remember what that feels like. You made me want to be better. And better men don't run. I was crying now. I don't want to lose you. You won't. No matter what happens tomorrow, no matter where you go or how much time passes, I'm yours. Forever. In this life and whatever comes after. He kissed me one last time. And I memorized everything. The way his lips felt. The way his arms held me. The way his heart beat against mine. When we pulled apart, he pressed something into my hand.
A key.
What's this? The flower shop. I'm leaving it to you. It's yours. Free and clear. Whatever happens tomorrow, promise me you'll keep it running. Rosa will help you. Promise me. Marco. Angela took me to another safe house that night. Somewhere even more hidden. I couldn't eat.
Couldn't sleep.
I just sat by the window and watched the sun rise over Chicago, wondering if Marco was watching the same sunrise. Wondering if it would be his last. The vote was happening at midnight. In some secret location I'd never know about. All day I waited. Angela checked in every hour. No news yet. No updates. Rosa called me crying. I pray for him, she said. I light candles. But these men, their hearts are stone. They don't forgive. They don't forget. At 11:30, Tony showed up at the safe house. One look at his face and I knew. No, I whispered. No, no, no. The vote was 15-3, Tony said quietly. They ruled against him. Marco Moretti is marked for death. Effective immediately. The room spun. I couldn't breathe. Where is he? He knew this was coming. He's making arrangements. Saying his goodbyes. Take me to him. I can't. He gave strict orders. I don't care about his orders. I screamed. Take me to him right now, or I swear I'll walk out this door and find him myself. Tony looked at me for a long moment. Then he nodded. Come on. We drove through empty streets. Chicago at midnight looked like a ghost city. Like the whole world was holding its breath. Tony took me to the flower shop. The lights were on inside. Through the window, I could see Marco standing among the roses. Just standing there. Alone. I ran inside. He turned when he heard me come in. You shouldn't be here. Neither should you. You should be running. Fighting. Something. I'm done running. His voice was calm. Too calm. I've spent my whole life running from one thing or another. I'm tired. Don't talk like that. Don't you dare talk like you've given up. I haven't given up. I've just accepted. He walked to me slowly. The families have spoken. There's no coming back from that. Every hitman, every soldier, every wannabe gangster in America will be hunting me for the bounty on my head. I can't fight them all. Then we run. Together. Like I said before. We disappear. And spend the rest of our lives looking over our shoulders? Waiting for the day they find us? That's not living. That's just dying slowly. I grabbed his shirt. I don't care. I don't care if we have to hide forever. At least we'd be alive. At least we'd be together. You deserve better than that. You don't get to decide what I deserve. I was shaking. You don't get to make this choice for me. If you stay here, if you let them kill you, you're not being noble. You're being a coward. You're running away from the one thing that actually matters. Us. Something flickered in his eyes.
Pain. Doubt.
What if I can't protect you? His voice cracked. What if running puts you in more danger? Then we face it together. I put my hands on his face. Marco, I've spent my whole life afraid. Afraid of being hurt. Afraid of being alone. Afraid of not mattering. And then you showed up and made me brave. You made me believe I was worth fighting for. Now it's my turn. Let me fight for you. Let me save you the way you saved me. He closed his eyes. You really want this? A life on the run? Always moving. Always hiding. Never settling down. I want you. Everything else is just details. Marco opened his eyes and looked at me like he was seeing the sun for the first time. Okay, he whispered. Okay. We run. Promise me. I closed my hand around the key. I promise. Everything happened fast after that. Tony made calls. Angela moved money. Rosa packed bags with things we'd need. You take care of my boy, Rosa said, hugging me tight. You make sure he stays alive. You make sure he's happy. I will. I promise. And you, she grabbed Marco's face. You listen to this girl. She's got more sense than you ever did. You follow her heart, you'll be okay. Marco kissed her forehead. Thank you. For everything. For raising me when no one else would. You were always a good boy, Marco. Just lost. Now you're found. She pushed something into his hands. Rosary beads. Your grandmother's. She'd want you to have them. Keep you safe. By 2 a.m, we were ready. We had new identities. New passports. Cash. A plan. Tony was driving us to a private airstrip where a plane was waiting. From there, Canada. Then Europe. Then somewhere so far off the map that even the families couldn't reach us. We were almost to the car when I heard it. Footsteps. Multiple. Coming from every direction. Down. Tony screamed. Gunfire erupted. Marco threw me to the ground, covering my body with his. Bullets ripped through the air above us. Glass shattered. Metal pinged. Tony was firing back, shouting orders into his phone. The east. They're coming from the east. More gunfire.
Closer now.
Marco pulled me behind a car. Stay down. No matter what happens, stay down. Marco. He kissed me hard. I love you. Remember that. Then he was gone, moving through the shadows with a gun in each hand. I'd never seen him like this.
Fast. Precise. Deadly.
Every shot found its target. Every movement was calculated. This wasn't just a man protecting himself. This was a predator unleashed. But there were too many of them. For every one Marco dropped, two more appeared. Tony went down, shot in the leg. He kept firing from the ground, screaming at Marco to run. Go. Get her out of here. Marco ran back to me, blood on his face. Not his. Can you run? Yes. Then run. Don't stop. Don't look back. He grabbed my hand, and we ran. Through alleys. Over fences. Through buildings. Behind us, the sounds of pursuit. Shouting. Gunshots. Engines. My lungs burned. My legs screamed. But I didn't stop. Marco pulled me into an old warehouse.
Dark.
Abandoned.
Silent.
Hide, he whispered. Third floor. Behind the old machinery. There's a crawl space. Get inside, and don't make a sound. What about you? I'm going to lead them away. Give you time to escape.
No.
We do this together or not at all.
Please.
His eyes were desperate.
Please.
I can't fight if I'm worried about you. I need to know you're safe. That's all that matters to me. Your safety. Voices outside. Getting closer. Go. Marco pushed me toward the stairs. Go now. I ran. Up 3 flights. Into the darkness. Found the machinery. Found the crawl space, barely big enough for one person. I squeezed inside and pulled a metal panel across the opening. Through a crack, I could see down to the warehouse floor. Marco stood in the center, waiting, his guns at his sides. The doors burst open. 20 men flooded in. Maybe more. A man walked forward. Older. Gray hair. Expensive suit. He had an authority that made everyone else look like children. Marco Moretti, the man said. His voice echoed. You've caused a lot of trouble. Then you shouldn't have voted to kill me, Don Salvatore. The families made their decision. You broke the rules. You brought chaos. You had to be dealt with. Is that what you call it? Dealing with me? Marco laughed.
Cold.
Empty. You're just scared. Scared that someone finally had the guts to stand up to all of you. Scared that the old ways are dying. Where's the girl? My heart stopped. Dead, Marco said without hesitation. Killed in the firefight. Your men made sure of that. Don Salvatore studied him. I don't believe you. I don't care what you believe.
She's gone.
You won. Congratulations. If she's dead, then you have nothing left to lose. Don Salvatore raised his hand. Kill him. 20 guns lifted. Wait, Marco said. One word, but it carried weight. Everyone paused. You want me dead? Fine. I'll go willingly. No fight. But first, you need to understand something. Marco looked around at all of them. I've been in this life since I was 9 years old. I've killed. I've stolen. I've done terrible things. But the one good thing, the one pure thing I ever found, you took from me. So before I die, I want you all to know something. He pulled something from his pocket. A detonator. Don Salvatore's face went white. What did you do? Marco smiled. Every business you own. Every warehouse. Every safe house. Every place you keep your money, your guns, your secrets. I rigged them all. Months of planning. Weeks of planting. All connected to this one button. You're bluffing. Am I? Marco's finger hovered over the button. Try me. Pull those triggers, and we all go up together. Me, you, and every empire you've built. Silence. Or Marco continued. You let me walk out of here. You call off the hit. You let me disappear. And in exchange, I don't press this button. I don't destroy everything you've spent your lives building. Don Salvatore's jaw clenched. You expect us to believe you'll just walk away? That you won't come back for revenge? I don't want revenge. I want peace. I want out. You give me that, and you can have your city back. Your empire. Your power. All of it. I just want to disappear with what's left of my life. The tension was suffocating. Don Salvatore looked at the other men. Silent conversations happening in glances. Finally, he lowered his hand. Stand down. The guns lowered. You have 24 hours, Don Salvatore said. After that, if I see you or hear your name anywhere in this country, the deal is off. Understand? Understood. And Moretti? If you're lying about the explosives, I'm not. Marco pressed a button on his phone. Somewhere in the distance, a small explosion. A warning shot. That was one warehouse. On the docks. Your warehouse. Want me to keep going? Don Salvatore's face was pure rage. But he nodded. 24 hours. The men filed out, one by one, until only Marco remained, standing alone in that empty warehouse. He waited 10 minutes, then 20, making sure they were really gone. Finally, he looked up at where I was hiding. You can come out now. I crawled out of that space and ran down those stairs so fast I almost fell. Marco caught me, held me. You lied, I breathed. About the explosives. Did I? He smiled. I've been planning my exit strategy for years. Just in case. Turns out, just in case came sooner than I thought. You were willing to destroy everything. For you, I'd destroy the whole world. We held each other in that dark warehouse while sirens wailed in the distance. We have 24 hours, Marco said. Let's not waste them. We drove through the night. Tony was already at a hospital being treated. Angela had transferred the last of the money and disappeared into her own new life. Rosa was safe, protected by people who owed Marco favors. It was just the two of us now, heading north, toward Canada, toward freedom. What do you want to do? Marco asked as we crossed into Wisconsin. When we get wherever we're going, what kind of life do you want? I thought about it. Something quiet, something simple. Maybe a flower shop. A real one, where people come just for flowers, where there's no backroom, no secrets, just beauty. He smiled. That sounds perfect. What about you? What do you want? You, he said simply. Everything else is just bonus. We drove until sunrise, stopped at a small diner in the middle of nowhere, ate breakfast while truckers and farmers ignored us. Just two more people passing through. I keep waiting for it to feel real, I said. That we're actually free. That no one's coming after us. Give it time. Marco reached across the table and took my hand. We've spent so long looking over our shoulders, we forgot what it feels like to look forward. At the Canadian border, we held our breath. The guard looked at our passports. New names. New lives. He studied Marco's face. Too long. Too carefully. My heart was pounding. Purpose of your visit? Fresh start, Marco said calmly. The guard looked at me. Miss. Same. I managed. He stared at us for another endless moment. Then he stamped our passports and handed them back. Welcome to Canada. Drive safe. We crossed that border, and I started crying. Not sad tears. Relief.
Joy.
Freedom. We'd made it. We were alive. We were together, that we ended up in a small town in Nova Scotia, on the coast, where the ocean crashed against black rocks and the air always smelled like salt and pine. We bought a small house. Nothing fancy. 2 bedrooms. A garden. A porch where you could watch the sunset. And we opened a flower shop. Just like Marco promised. Just like I dreamed. It was small. Simple. We grew most of the flowers ourselves in the garden. Sold them to locals and tourists. Made enough to live on. Nothing more. Nothing less. You happy? Marco asked me one morning as we planted tulip bulbs together. I looked at him. At this man who'd traded an empire for a garden. who'd given up power for peace, who'd chosen love over everything else. More than I ever thought possible, I said. He kissed my forehead.
Good.
Me too. We made friends in the town. People who knew us as Michael and Emma. A quiet couple who ran the flower shop, who kept to themselves mostly but were always kind, always helpful. No one knew who we really were, what we'd been, what we'd survived. And that was exactly how we wanted it. But some nights, I'd wake up and find Marco standing at the window, looking out at the darkness. And I knew he was remembering, wondering, checking to make sure the past hadn't finally caught up with us. They're not coming, I'd say, wrapping my arms around him from behind. It's over. I know. He'd turn and hold me. Old habits die hard. 6 months passed.
Then a year.
Then 2. We got married on the beach. Just us and a local minister. No family. No friends. No one from our old lives. Just 2 people who found each other in the darkness and chose to walk into the light together. I wore a simple white dress.
He wore a suit without a tie.
We said our vows with the ocean as our witness. I promise to love you, Marco said, his voice thick with emotion. To protect you. To build a life with you that's worthy of the second chance you gave me. For as long as I'm breathing. I promise to stand beside you, I said. Through whatever comes. To remind you every day that you're not the man you used to be. You're the man you chose to become. And that man is good. That man is mine. We exchanged simple gold bands. Kissed while the waves crashed. And for the first time in my entire life, I felt completely and totally home. 3 years after we left Chicago, on a Tuesday morning in October, someone walked into our flower shop. I was in the back, arranging roses. Marco was at the counter, handling a customer. I heard the bell chime. Heard footsteps. Heard Marco's voice stop mid-sentence. The silence that followed made my blood run cold. I walked to the front of the shop and froze. Tony was standing there. Older. Thinner. With a cane he hadn't needed before. But it was definitely him. Boss, he said quietly. We need to talk. Marco's face was stone. I don't have a boss anymore. And you shouldn't be here. I know.
I'm sorry.
But. Tony glanced at me. It's important. Marco looked at me. I saw the conflict in his eyes. The past pulling at him. The fear of what this might mean. I nodded. I'll give you 2 some privacy. I went to the back room, but I could hear everything through the door. How did you find me? Marco's voice was ice. I didn't. You're good. Too good. But Rosa, she got sick last month. Cancer. She's dying, Marco.
And she asked for you. Kept saying your name.
I promised her I'd try to find you. Took me 3 months. Called in every favor I had left. Silence. How long does she have? Marco's voice cracked.
Weeks.
Maybe less. The doctors don't know. Is it safe? If I go back. The families have moved on. New bosses. New wars. Your name doesn't mean anything to them anymore. You're a ghost story. And Don Salvatore died last year. Heart attack. The old guard is gone. More silence. I can't ask her to come with me, Marco said. This is our life. Our safety. I can't risk it. I'm not asking you to. Tony's voice was gentle. I'm just delivering a message. Rosa wants to see you one more time. Whatever you decide, I'll understand. We all will. I heard Tony leave. Heard the bell chime. Heard Marco standing alone in the shop. I walked out. He was staring at the floor. His hands shaking. I have to go, he said without looking up. I have to see her. She raised me. She saved me. I can't let her die alone. I know. But if I go back, if someone recognizes me, then we deal with it. I walked over and took his hands. Together. Like everything else. He looked up. You'd come with me? Back to Chicago? Back to everything we ran from? You really think I'd let you walk back into that world alone? I smiled. We're in this together. Remember? For better or worse. Till death and all that. This is the worst part. Then it's a good thing I'm really good at worse. He pulled me into his arms and held me so tight, I could barely breathe. I love you, he whispered. More than anything in this life.
I know.
Now, let's go say goodbye to the woman who taught you how to love in the first place. Chicago looked the same, but felt different. The buildings were still tall. The streets were still crowded. But the danger felt less immediate. Like the city had moved on without us. We went straight to the hospital. St. Michael's. On the south side. Rosa was in a private room.
Small.
Quiet. Machines beeping softly. She looked so small in that bed. So fragile. Nothing like the strong Italian woman who taught me about flowers and life and love. But when she saw Marco walk through that door, her eyes lit up like she was 20 years old again. My boy, she whispered. You came. Marco sat beside her bed and took her hand. Of course I came. You think I'd let you go without saying goodbye? You look good. Happy. Her eyes found me standing in the doorway. Both of you. This is what I prayed for. That you'd find peace.
Because of you, Marco said.
Everything good in my life exists because of you.
No.
Because of you. You chose good. You chose love. She squeezed his hand weakly. I'm so proud of you, Marco. Your grandmother would be proud too. Tears rolled down Marco's face. I don't know how to do this. How to let you go. You do what you've always done. You survive. You keep going. You build a beautiful life with this beautiful girl. She smiled at me. You take care of him? I moved closer, taking her other hand. Every day. Good. He needs someone strong. Someone who sees him for who he really is. She coughed.
Weak. Tired.
The flower shop, you'll keep it going? Always, I promised. Every rose, every lily, every stem, we'll keep it alive. That's all I wanted. For the beauty to continue. For love to win. Her eyes were closing. I'm tired now. So tired. Then rest, Marco said softly. We'll be right here. We sat with her for 3 hours. Holding her hands. Telling her stories about our new life.
About the garden. About the house by the ocean.
About how we'd named our flower shop Roses in her honor.
She smiled at that.
Roses, she whispered. Perfect. As the sun set outside the window, painting the room in gold and orange light, Rosa took one last breath. And then she was gone. Peaceful. Quiet. Surrounded by the two people she loved most. Marco broke. He put his head down on her bed and sobbed. Deep, wrenching sobs that came from somewhere so deep I didn't know it existed. I held him. Let him cry. Let him grieve. Let him feel everything he'd been holding in for so many years. When he finally looked up, his eyes were red but clear. She was the last piece of my old life, he said. The last good piece. And now she's gone. No, I said gently.
She's not gone.
She's in every flower we grow. Every person we're kind to. Every choice we make to be better than we were. She's with us. Always. Marco stood up slowly. Kissed Rosa's forehead one last time. Thank you, he whispered to her. For everything. For saving me. For loving me. For showing me that family isn't just blood. It's who shows up. Who stays. Who fights for you even when you don't deserve it. We left the hospital as the sun disappeared completely. Chicago at night was alive with lights and sounds and people who had no idea that a great woman had just left this world. I need to see it, Marco said suddenly. One last time. See what? The shop. Our old flower shop. I need to see it before we go home. We took a taxi to the old neighborhood. It looked different. Cleaner. Newer. The broken streetlights were fixed. The abandoned buildings were being renovated. But Moretti's Flowers was still there. Same red neon sign. Same wooden door. Same buckets of flowers outside. We stood across the street, staring at it. Someone kept it going, Marco said, his voice full of wonder. Who? I don't know. I sold it before we left. Gave it to Angela to handle. I assumed she'd just close it down. The door opened, and a young woman walked out. Maybe 25. Dark hair. Bright smile. She started rearranging the flower buckets. Marco crossed the street slowly. I followed. Excuse me, he said. The woman looked up. Hi. We're actually closed right now, but if you need something quick. I used to own this shop, Marco said. A long time ago. Her eyes went wide. You're Marco? The Marco? You know who I am? Angela told me all about you. Well, not everything. Just enough. She stuck out her hand. I'm Jade. Angela's niece. She gave me the shop 2 years ago. Told me to keep it exactly as it was. Said it was important. That someone special started here. Marco shook her hand, stunned. And you kept it? All this time? Of course. This place is magic. People come here when they're happy. When they're sad. When they need hope. I wouldn't change that for anything. She looked at me. You must be her. The one Angela told me about. The one who changed everything. I nodded, not trusting my voice. Jade smiled. She said if you ever came back, I should tell you something. Want to hear it? Yes, Marco said. She said, tell them that the flowers they planted keep blooming. Tell them that love wins. Tell them to never look back. Only forward. Jade pulled out a key. And she told me to give you this. Said you'd know what it means. It was the same brass key Marco had given me that first night. The key to the room above the shop. The key that changed my life. Marco took it with shaking hands. Thank you, he whispered. No, thank you, Jade said. For starting something beautiful. For proving that even in darkness, flowers can grow. We stood there for a long moment. The three of us under that red neon glow. Then Marco did something I didn't expect. He handed the key back to Jade. Keep it, he said. This place isn't mine anymore. It's yours. But promise me something. Anything. If someone shows up here one night, lost, broken, with nowhere else to go, you help them. You give them a chance. You be for them what this place was for us. Jade's eyes filled with tears. I promise. Marco took my hand. Come on, let's go home. We walked away from that flower shop, from that old neighborhood, from everything we used to be, and we didn't look back. 5 years later. Our flower shop in Nova Scotia was thriving. We'd expanded the garden, added a small greenhouse, started teaching classes to locals who wanted to learn about flowers. We had a daughter now, 3 years old, with my eyes and Marco's dark hair. We named her Rose. For obvious reasons. She was obsessed with flowers. Every morning she'd run to the garden and check on her plants, talking to them, singing to them, making up stories about flower kingdoms and petal princesses. Marco would watch her with this look on his face. Pure joy. Pure love. Like he couldn't believe this was his life now. You ever regret it? I asked him one morning as we sat on the porch, watching Rose play in the garden. Giving up everything you had? He looked at me like I was crazy. Are you kidding? That wasn't everything. That was nothing. This, he gestured to our daughter, our home, our garden. This is everything. This is worth more than all the power and money in the world. Rose ran up to us holding a daisy. Mama. Papa. Look. The flower told me a secret. Oh yeah. Marco scooped her up. What secret? She said we're gonna have really good weather tomorrow. So, we can have a picnic. Well, if the flower says so, it must be true, I said, kissing her cheek. She wiggled down and ran back to the garden, her little voice singing some song about butterflies and sunshine. I never thought I'd have this, Marco said quietly. A family. A home. Peace. I spent so many years being the wolf, being dangerous, being feared. I forgot that I could be just Marco, just a man, just a father. You were always just Marco, I said. The rest was just armor, protection, but you don't need that anymore. Because of you. He pulled me close. You saved me. In every way a person can be saved. We saved each other. I corrected. That's how this works. That's how love works. We sat there on that porch, watching our daughter play in the garden we built together. The ocean crashed in the distance. The sun was warm. The air smelled like roses and salt and home. And I thought about that girl I used to be, 24 years old, sitting under a flower shop sign in Chicago,
Broken. Lost.
ready to give up. I thought about how one moment, one decision, one act of kindness from a dangerous man changed the entire trajectory of my life. I thought about how darkness and light aren't opposites. They're partners. You can't appreciate the light without knowing the darkness. You can't understand love without surviving pain. What are you thinking about? Marco asked. How grateful I am, I said.
For that October night.
For the flower shop. For you seeing me when I was invisible to everyone else.
I didn't see you, Marco said softly.
I saw myself. That 9-year-old kid sitting in the street with nothing. And I remembered what it felt like when someone finally reached out a hand. He squeezed my fingers. You didn't just let me save you. You let me save that kid. The one who thought he wasn't worth saving. Rose came running back with more flowers. Can we make a crown? Like a princess? Of course, baby, I said. Sit here, and I'll show you how. As I wove daisies and baby's breath into a crown for my daughter, with my husband beside me and the sound of the ocean in my ears, I realized something. This was it. This was the happy ending. Not perfect. Not without scars. Not without memories of pain and fear and everything we survived to get here. But real. And true. And ours. Rose put her flower crown on and declared herself Queen of the Garden. Marco bowed dramatically. Your Majesty. She giggled and ran off again, crown slightly crooked, trailing flowers behind her. You know what Rosa told me? Marco said. That last day in the hospital, when you went to get coffee.
What?
She said, that girl is going to teach you how to live, not just survive. Let her. Even when it scares you. Especially when it scares you. He looked at me. She was right. About everything. She usually was. I wish she could see this. See Rose. See what we built. I think she can, I said. I think she's in every flower in this garden. Every petal. Every stem. Watching over us. Making sure we remember what matters. Marco pulled me closer. Rose's laughter filled the air. The sun shone down on our little piece of heaven. And in that perfect moment, I understood something fundamental about life. Sometimes you have to lose everything to find out what you really need. Sometimes the most dangerous thing is the thing that saves you. Sometimes love doesn't look like safety. It looks like risk. Like choice. Like jumping into darkness and trusting someone to catch you. And sometimes, just sometimes, the girl with nothing and the man with everything can meet in the middle and build something beautiful. Something worth fighting for. Something worth surviving for. Something called home. Mama, Papa, come look. The roses are blooming. We stood up together, hand in hand, and walked into our garden. Into the light. Into the rest of our lives. And the flowers kept growing. Sometimes the most beautiful things grow in the darkest places. Sometimes love is the most dangerous risk worth taking. Sometimes the best happy ending is the one you build yourself. One flower at a time.